One of the hardest things about bringing a manifestation to your current reality is putting forth the effort to bring it to light. Often we have a dream, we have a goal, we have an aspiration that we want to achieve, that we want to reach. Say, for instance, you want to be a college graduate or maybe a famous singer. And without the expectations of what somebody defines to be successful, you still create this dream or connect with your higher self, connect with source to receive information that uplifts you, that empowers you, that inspires you to move in that direction, to move towards the thing that you're hoping to obtain for yourself. And often in modern day spirituality, we find that people talk about manifesting these things by doing a spell, by doing a full moon ritual, by a new moon ritual, trying to create an altar that symbolizes all of the things that embody this goal, this dream, this aspiration coming to life, including vision boards. And when we see these things as a means of putting in the energetic or the yes, putting in the energetic desire or request or the setting the intention for us to receive, we often forget that part of the manifestation actually includes following through on making sure you obtain that thing. Meaning, if you are wanting to become that famous singer, if you're wanting to be the college graduate, that requires you to then apply for the college, do your research on different programs, go to class when you've been accepted, study, put forth the effort in accomplishing and receiving the degree. And for being a famous singer, that would require doing singing lessons, watching any training videos, or trying out new styles of singing, doing all encompassing yourself in all forms of art or surrounding yourself, excuse me, in all forms of art to help develop the creative self in pursuing that aspiration. And when we think about that, because it's difficult to put forth that that energy or put in the effort to receiving the gift, often our manifestations don't play out or don't come through in the way that we were anticipating them or wanting them to come through. If there's anything that I've learned in my experience of becoming who I am today and as I continue moving forward, I understand or I see how many times I've tried to manifest something to my reality and not received it simply because I wasn't willing to put forth the effort. A lot of my pain and anguish in not achieving my dreams has come specifically from the point of not being willing to try, not being willing to stay consistent, not being willing to follow through on what it is that I've told myself or believed in for myself privately or publicly in a way that would bring success. If that makes sense. I'm not for sure on the wording, but what I'm getting at is that from all of the failures, I've learned every single time that it has been nothing but me who has stood in the way of my own success. Not anybody else, not somebody's energy, not somebody's distaste towards me accomplishing the goal. It has been always me getting in my own way. And when we sit with that information, right, when we sit with the possibility that somebody else is not responsible for how we have seemingly not achieved our goals, it makes some of us, at least it makes me sometimes, feel a little bit uncomfortable. Uncomfortable because that means taking accountability for where I have shown up and where I haven't shown up, instead of being quick to turn to somebody else's behavior or actions, and saying, you're the reason why I couldn't feel motivated, or you're the reason why I had these limiting thoughts, right? In the essence, or in the encompassing of what trauma does mentally and emotionally, I see it from the from both sides, in that we understand that trauma, or the behavior of other people, does impact us negatively, to the extent of us now having to choose whether or not we're going to stay stagnant in the cycle of despair, or if we are going to find means of coping, moving forward, of making sense of, and pushing forward, right? Not everyone, as I will mention here, is able, or is finds the capacity within themselves to move beyond the trauma. But maybe we can offer ourselves an opportunity to not just hold the space and say that it has to be moved past. And I'll put a pin in this, I'll put a bookmark in this and come back to it later on in this message. But what I'm hoping to that you'll understand, or that you'll take away from what I'm sharing, is that we hold autonomy over ourselves in a capacity where, if we're able and willing to acknowledge that there has been some wrongdoing, or that there's some discomfort that has arisen as a result of an experience or circumstance where another party had a part to play in it, we also have the autonomy, the ability to then make a choice that changes the trajectory of our overall story of our well-being. We can choose to go get help by seeking out the experience or the expertise of a mental health professional. We can choose to do the shadow work, to do the spiritual, the energetic work, to release the burden of guilt, shame, worry, upsetness, whatever the negative emotion is that you're attaching to the situation. And then once we've done the work, we then have the autonomy and the power to then make a step in the right direction that helps us fulfill the goal, that helps us fulfill the dream, the wish, the aspiration here. And so, going back to what I briefly mentioned on that, we don't necessarily have to move past the trauma. Often we get so wrapped up in the progress, or of the feeling like we have to get to a certain point in order for us to then start the dream, to start creating, to start writing, to start singing, to start doing, because we feel like other people need to see us at our wholeness, at our 100% healed version of ourselves, that we ourselves need to be in this period, this state of being perfect in order to then be successful. But the harsh reality is that none of us ever will reach that point of being perfect, of being completely healed, in order to get to where we can then make the progress, or get to where we want to be, which is being the successful singer, or the famous singer, or being the college graduate. It never ever will be a place where it never ever comes from a point. It should. Okay, excuse me. Let me restate this. It should never come from a place of needing other people to see us one way, or us needing us to see ourselves in a specific way, because that hinders us from even being willing to move move forward, to even make any kind of progress. And when I think about this, when I consider like how this makes me feel, to consider that it's really ultimately up to me, initially my feelings are, well, that's bullshit, that's BS. How can I how realistic is it to say that my trauma is not still showing up and preventing me from being able to do X, Y, and Z? And so when I sit there and think about that and what we've just offered you, it allows me to then move into a space, and I hope you find the same ability or the same capacity to, at some point, to say, you know what, maybe I can just sit with the pain. I can sit with the discomfort of knowing that this trauma is never going to go away, that I'm not maybe going to get the closure that I'm seeking here. I'm not going to get the apology. I'm not ever going to see their behavior change. But what I am going to be able to do is love the part of myself in a way that I want to be loved, in a way that I want to be supported in the pain. So that way I then can take that with me. I can carry it as another, it's not a weight, it's not a burden, but as another asset, another tool that I can then use and apply to my experience, thus moving forward. How can I let this empower me rather than pull me back? And so I'll speak on a personal experience here where really I've been kind of battling this whole concept of making headway on my own dreams, goals, and aspirations. I come from a family where, from my experience, it felt like a lot of the abuse that I endured or that I went through with my father and with other family members, my stepfather as well, the emotional and the physical abuse combined was just swept under the rug. And I was told that I wasn't allowed to speak openly about it because it meant that other people outside of the family were going to make judgments or perceive the family to be weak or messed up, or just place the stereotype of what a black family, a dysregulated black family, would look like. For valid reason, my family had these concerns, and I understand as an adult where they were coming from, but as a child, moving into adulthood, it made me, and sometimes even still now, it made me extremely angry that I wasn't allowed to speak my truth about what I was feeling, about what I was experiencing. No one wanted to validate me, not even to the extent of saying, you know what, I understand that this is happening and I support you in this. I want to help you feel better or overcome this, or I just want to give you your space to process it. It never felt like that was an option for me. And because I never got that validation, because I never received the support in the areas that I deeply desired, I let that carry with me up until even now, presently, where I'm still navigating the experience of having to let that part of my childhood go, having to let the disappointment go, having to let go of all the anger and the frustration of my parents not acknowledging that their actions impacted me to a level in which the choices I made as an adult were severely impacted, or severely I'll just leave it at impacted. Were severely impacted by the consequence of it all, the way that it made me feel internally, to where now or previously, I wasn't able, and I didn't feel able to, or empowered enough to pursue my creativity, to pursue my spirituality, to pursue what I professionally wanted to be in my life, because I felt like I was always having to prove something, that I was always having to go outside of myself to receive the validation for what I was doing, just as a means of making sense of, or feeling affirmed, or feeling, loved, when the love wasn't there to begin with, or so it felt like the love wasn't there to begin with. And so in this present state where I am choosing to go to therapy, I'm doing the shadow work, I'm doing the spiritual work that I need to do, I am always finding myself at some moments struggling with following through on my dreams, my goals, my aspirations, because there's still some level of resentment to where I'm like, I say to myself, or I experience the thought of, well, I wasn't able to pursue this fully because I was still caught up in trying to heal. I wasn't able to give it my all because I was still caught up in the fact that my dad never told me that he was proud of me for doing X, Y, and Z, or that I could feel that there was some level of discontentment or some level of disappointment in the choices that I was making. But one of the things that I'm learning here presently as an adult, as someone that is continuing my progress in continuing my spiritual journey, I'm seeing and knowing and feeling that their opinion, my parents' opinion in particular, is none of my fucking business. And the opinion of other people is none of my fucking business. And the reason why is because if I'm allowing all of my validation, all of my feel good feelings to be based on somebody else's approval of me, then the point of me doing it, of following the creativity, of following my passions, are a moot point. It's not even worth it, because why did I want to do it in the first place? Am I doing it because I want to look good in front of other people, or am I doing it because there's something that I connect to on a spiritual level when it comes to my creativity, when it comes to my professional goals, my aspirations? What is it internally that has led me to feel this excited and this empowered when pursuing that project, when pursuing that aspiration, that goal, that wish, right? And so now all I'm offering myself is a chance to sit in a space of forgiveness, not because I think that this is suddenly gonna propel me forward and I'm gonna skip out on all of the discomfort and the frustration and the anger and the shame. No, because I still acknowledge that internally I'm gonna continue feeling some level of upsetness with my parents. It may not ever go away. I'm okay with that. But what I am allowing is for the forgiveness to come through, where I forgive myself for holding on to that level of frustration to the extent of preventing my own self from moving forward productively. Instead of saying, you know what, now that I understand that they're not going to change or their perspective may not align with mine, I'm going to continue moving forward. I said at the time, you know what, this is the reason why I can't. This is the reason why nothing is ever working out for me, or this, and I may not have consciously said that. You may not consciously be saying to the self, they are the reason why I can't be successful. But the inner child, the subconscious part of yourself, is simply awaiting validation that may not ever come, and then thus blaming the reason why you haven't progressed or made another step forward on your trauma, on your parents, on the loved ones that may have betrayed you, double-crossed you, backstabbed you, that left you to fend for yourself. And we're not saying that their behavior is something that we're going to forget, that we're dismissing, that we're excusing. What we are saying is that at this point in time, how much more are you going to allow that level of betrayal to continue showing up in your life now? How much more are you going to allow the pain to be the only thing you live in? To be the only reality that you create for yourself? You owe it to yourself to let it go, to offer the space to the self and say, you know what? This situation may not ever change. And it hurts. It sucks. I fucking hate it. But what I do what I do choose moving forward is myself. What I do choose is a means of loving and creating and engaging that no one else could ever give me besides me. And when I say that out loud, I hear that and I take it in, and it allows me to go, damn, why hadn't I allowed myself to sit in this energy long ago? Why hadn't I allowed myself to move into this place long ago? And if you're asking yourself the same question after sitting through this message, I would encourage you to say, as I say to myself, healing is a journey. It happens when it's time. There is no rushing, there is no going forward with abandon. It is only about taking it day by day, step by step. And when you're ready, you're ready. No one else can force it upon you. Not your parents, not your therapist, not your lover, not your friends, only you. And even as we sit in the higher self and source and spirit team and any other energies that are supportive of you at this time, we acknowledge that they are patiently waiting as well. That they know that ultimately it takes time for us operating in a human vessel to acknowledge and accept our truth, to acknowledge and accept growth, to acknowledge and accept courage and perseverance towards moving towards the thing, the dream, the goal, the aspiration that gives us life and meaning and purpose. And allowing the self to say, you know what? The trauma was real. The pain is real. And I acknowledge that. I sit with it. I'm not excusing it. I'm not erasing it. But I'm using it to empower myself, to know that I no longer want to be in that energy. I no longer want to allow that to happen to me ever again. Not saying that you were intentional about letting it happen to you again, but by sitting in that same energy space of being angry, resentful, pissed off, it's almost as if you're allowing the story to repeat itself day after day in, day out, hour after hour, moment by moment, for however long you feel comfortable reminiscing about why they haven't done this and why they aren't doing that. It's hard to sit in that space, to acknowledge, you know what, I wasn't ready. I'm not there yet. And even if you are hearing this and you are still not at the place to move on past the pain, give yourself grace, compassion, and love for knowing that at least you're considering and pondering, is this an option for me? Because the wisest part of yourself has sat through this entire video with the intention of planting a seed, of being open to change. And perhaps either tonight, tomorrow, in the next week, in the next month, you might find yourself in a different energetic space that allows you to explore forgiveness and healing in a way that's right for you. But in the meantime, allow yourself to continue feeling what you're feeling. There is no wrong way to feel at this time. And in the same way, I'm feeling aware, I'm feeling open, I'm feeling vulnerable, I'm feeling a little bit annoyed. Because honestly, I'm acknowledging to the self that truly I have waited far too long for me to live out my dreams, to follow my heart. All because my father, my parents, my stepfather, my family, from my perspective, has not acknowledged me the way that I am desiring acknowledgement. They have not validated me in the way that I'm desiring validation. They may not ever give me what I want, or they may very well do it. They may call me up tomorrow and say, you know, I saw your video and, you know, it spoke to me. And I just want to tell you how much I love you and I care for you, and I understand how my actions hurt you, and I'm sorry. They may say all of that to me tomorrow, but if I'm not willing to accept the truth that they were operating in a space that they only were limited in operating in at the time, that it's not personal, it's just human beings reacting and responding to the environment in which they grew up in and are currently living in. If I'm not willing to accept all of that and then move beyond it to where I'm empowering myself, then the apology is not worth it. The validation is not worth it. It's a moot point. It's wasted effort. So before I even receive it, before I even hear it on this timeline, I'm at least going to give myself the chance to try, to be better, to do better, to love better. Myself first and foremost. and then other people in a way that is right for them. Not forcing my trauma onto somebody else because I feel like they need to be loved in that way, but only from a space and a capacity that says, I respect your autonomy. I value your truth. And I just want to be in support in a way that keeps you authentic, that keeps you present, and with me in a way that feels right, that feels good. All that being said, take what resonates, leave behind what doesn't. But at the very least, I'm hearing this for myself and I am blown away because something is going to change very soon. And I hope the same for you. My name is Hypno Jojo. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button, press the like button, and put in the comments below. Let me know how this message came across. And if there's anything that you want me to discuss or talk about on another video, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to discuss.